All right, good afternoon, everybody. We're going to give, looks like we've got several people still jumping on here, so we're going to give that a couple more minutes, give folks a chance to continue to jump on here over the next minute or two. While we're waiting, Robin, Elliot, can you hear me okay?
Yes.
I can hear you loud and clear.
Great, awesome. And you can see my screen okay?
Yes,
I can. Can somebody in the audience just put in the chat there, make sure we can you can hear us and see the screen, please? That would be greatly appreciated. Oh, I see a question. Perfect. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. All right. Great.
All right. Good deal. All right. We're about a minute past. We'll give folks another 30 seconds to a minute, and then we'll get this kicked off. Looks like we've got quite a few here jumping on. So, all right, we're going to go ahead and actually just get started. So great. Well, hopefully for everyone who is on, you are here to learn more about how to boost your Google ranking by blogging. This is the best part, right? The easy way, right? So a little bit about us. My name is Dean Colora, and I've spent about 10 years in the title space, sitting in the very chair that many of you are in right now. I actually work for an attorney in the Tampa Bay market and helped grow his office to about 16 offices at that time. And I've been an active realtor for about 12 years. I run a small family practice in the Bay Area. Also, I'm a CEO and co-founder of Title Tap and an Alta Hop leader, and do a little bit of speaking here and there. So that's a little bit about me. Elliot, you want to give your 2 cents about yourself?
Yeah, sure, Dean. Can you hear me okay?
Yep, yeah, good.
Okay, fantastic. So unlike Dean, my background was more on the technical side of the business, whereas he was more functional. I spent a number of years working with real estate attorneys, title agents, mortgage brokers, and things like that on their IT things, and then later into the website marketing side. And through that process, I also I'm a COO and co-founder of Title Tap and an Alta Hop leader. And then we have Robin, who's going to be helping us with Q&A. So if you have any questions during the presentation, go ahead and ask them, and we will try to circulate. She'll either respond or we can answer them at the end if they're applicable to everyone.
Yeah, perfect. So just a little bit too for those that aren't as familiar with Title Tap. Everything we're going to talk about today, we do from a practical perspective for companies across the country. So Title Tap is an online marketing platform that specifically has tuned the services for the real estate title space and the real estate attorney space. It's our only niche, and we do everything from secure websites to email marketing, video marketing, social media management, things of that nature. So a lot of what we talk about today is coming firsthand from doing this for many folks across the country and for ourselves. So with that being said, we'll move right along. So why this webinar? We had gotten, Elliot, I lost count with how many customers and just friends in passing that would ask us, hey, how do I get higher on the search rankings, right? So this desire to get higher on Google. They hear about blogs. Some of you in the audience may blog, but haven't really quite figured out a good system to do it consistently. Some of you, this is kind of your first exposure to blogging, and you don't really know how. So just getting the know-how. The big reason a lot of folks have struggled with it has to do with lack of time, lack of experience, and honestly, they're just maybe you're just looking for an easier way to do this. So that's why we decided to put on this webinar. We're hoping you're going to take away a few nuggets out of this, and some actionable items that you can actually put in practice the minute you get off this webinar. And so we're going to be talking a little bit about the 3 biggest benefits of blogging, 3 easy steps to blogging efficiently, Then we're going to kind of cover a few real examples with results so you can kind of see what we're talking about in action. And then towards the end, we've got two pretty cool bonuses that we hope you stick around for because you don't definitely want to miss those. Now, we do have a disclaimer, and I'm just going to put this out there because we get this a lot as well. Well, how much time is it going to take, and am I going to get an order out of doing this? There's just certain things we can't promise or guarantee because a lot of this depends on what you do, what your market is made of, and what your competition is in that market. So we can't really speak to how much time it's going to take to get the results, how high you're going to climb, or guaranteeing any new orders. So we're just putting that out there up front. So with that, I'm going to pass the mic, Elliot, to you to kind of cover us at a high level of, as to what SEO is.
Yeah, thanks, Dean. So in a nutshell, SEO, you might hear us throw that term around during this presentation, but SEO is essentially the things that need to get done in order for you to be found in online and in search engines and those sorts of things. This used to be really difficult, or at least a lot more difficult than it was. It is now just organically for Google to find you. But what really is competitive now is getting higher in the search results, right? It used to be technical things that you had to do in order to be found and in order to rank high. Now it's all about content and information. And if you think about that, it makes a lot of sense. And we'll go into that here with the first benefit. The first benefit of blogging is that it can help you become the authority in your market. And just like what I was saying, the biggest authority factors for ranking your website in search are the number of links that you have incoming to your website, right? So if CNN or if larger websites link back to your website, that's a benefit. That's a big benefit. That's telling search engines that, hey, this website is important because I'm gonna link to it. And the other thing is the content, the quality of the content. Is it relevant content? Those sorts of things. So just keep that in mind. And if you think about that, it makes a lot of sense because when you go to a search engine or you go online, people look for information, right? They're looking for an answer to their questions. And so I want you to think about that. Selling something is simply the byproduct of finding the information you were looking for. And we've said that before on previous webinars, and it's still true today. And even if you think about like an Amazon, Amazon is known for being a shopping site, a destination site. People go there to buy things, right? But without the product descriptions, without all the photos that they have, 10, 12 photos, showing all the different uses of the product and all those different things, it's a lot. It's going to be hard to sell those things if you didn't have any of that information that's on the site. So just think about that, and service businesses are no different than that. Having information about the services that you provide, answering those questions is a big part of that. So that leads us to benefit number 2. Blogging can get you more at-bats, right? So the higher the quality of the information, the more backlinks you have to your site. People link to a nice article that you post, or they link to a great explanation that you have about what in the world is title insurance, right? If you look at these metrics here, search engine page clicks, 91% of those clicks come from page 1 of Google. So that's really where you want to be. It drops off drastically as you go to page 2, 3, 4, and so on. You really want to be on page 1. And just to kind of unfold that a little bit more, or unpack it, the top 3 results get over 50% of the clicks. So that is kind of really where you want to be, not just on the home page. You'd really like to be in that top 3 results. So just keep that in mind as we're going through this. Benefit number 3 is that blogging fuels all of your other marketing. And if you look at this chart here and think about this, a blog gives you a single landing page, and I'm going to go into this a little bit, how to get your blog post to give you multiple landing pages. But it also is Facebook post. It's Facebook posts that you can reuse. You don't have to just post to Facebook once. You can post to Facebook multiple times. Every time you post it to Facebook, a new group of people will see it. So it's not going to be just the same people seeing the same thing over and over and over again. You can use that blog post as an email marketing piece. It can be used for PR in some instances. You can take that same information and make a flyer or a pamphlet, so on and so forth. There's all these different uses for a single blog post. So it is kind of the central hub of a lot of the marketing that you can do. So that's all great. Many of you are probably thinking, well, this has to be difficult to do. It sounds, kind of complicated to get this going. But I'm going to let Dean talk about this a little bit. That it doesn't have to be hard.
Yeah, thanks, Elliot. Who knows how much of a sweat that guy's climbing up that stone wall. Good grief. So blogging doesn't have to be hard, right? And what we're going to cover next are the 3 easy steps to blogging. And what we're going to want to point out here is the first step, which is content. And again, we have a lot of conversations about what trips many of our customers up, and what they've tried to do in the past. And it's trying to come up with content on a regular basis, sourcing that content and being unique about it, but also, figuring out what's sort of trending out there and what would be relevant. So we're going to go over one technique that is rather straightforward and actually, probably just under your nose there, and that's answering common customer questions, or your FAQ. So many of you probably already have this on your website. You probably have a full page full of, maybe it's a handful, maybe it's, more than a handful of frequently asked questions that you get and you've got a response to. So that's a great place to start with content. And what we're going to want to do with that page is really start kind of breaking that up into separate pages. Okay, so think about it like this. So each of those questions can almost form its own blog entry. And the way you want to expand on that to make that content very relevant is include 2 or 3 keywords. And when we talk about keywords, those are things like, the cities that you service. Those are things like the market that you're trying to speak to. Maybe it's the first-time home buyer. Maybe it's a luxury market seller. Maybe it's an investor. You want to have those keywords strewn throughout that particular blog post, because if you put your mindset in that of someone actually on the other end looking at Google and punching in a question, it could be, what is the home buying process like for a first-time home buyer? So having words like first-time home buyer in that instance in your blog entry will help connect those dots for Google. Having a little blurb about what you do is important. So think about it, at the tail end, naming your company, and that your company is associated with certain services, i.e. closing services, notary services, settlement services, title insurance. Again, those are all key words that will be associated with that entry if someone is looking for, a first-time home buyer and then maybe the closing process. It'll capture those keyword elements. The next thing is adding 2 or 3 local keywords. So again, we talked about cities earlier. Many of you service an entire state. Some of you service, certain regional areas. If you really break it down and take a look at, for every 10 orders that you get, where are the bulk of those orders coming from? I mean, it's easy to say I service the whole state, but really investigate that for yourselves, and you can start breaking it up, and we're going to get into that here more, where you can cover a lot of ground by making each post kind of unique in terms of a local perspective. And this kind of piggybacks what I just was going over. So again, instead of having 100 topics on one page, it's a lot more SEO friendly and beneficial to have 100 topics over 100 pages. Your findability just skyrockets when it comes to SEO. We mentioned this earlier as well, that you want your content to be very localized and very unique. Okay, so the way Google really awards content when it comes to search rankings today, and Elliot touched on this a little bit prior, is A, are you answering the question that the consumer is asking for? And B, are you a provider of that answer that's close to that consumer or that user that's asking the question? So, if you're talking about, like we said with first-time home buying and that process, do you answer that question? And that first-time home buyer said, hey, I'm buying a house, first-time home buyer in Tampa. What's the closing process like? Making sure that you have Tampa in that blog entry will connect those dots. Okay, you answer the question, and again, you locally match. So, if you want, again, better posts, better quality of posts, you've got to be specific. Use synonyms to kind of switch things up. Again, you don't want to necessarily have the exact If you've got an FAQ page that has, a lot of this at a very high level with 1 or 2 liners, you could interchange some synonyms for that and use phrases that people use. So again, it's taking the hat off of you as the title agent or real estate attorney and putting the hat on of an actual, person on the other end Googling you, all right, Googling a question. Instead of things, and this is kind of an example we have got here, instead of having, just, title insurance, pose it as a question. Do I need title insurance? And have that as, maybe a subject title for the blog. So, where do you start? Again, we talked about a good place would be to look at your FAQs, pick some keywords or phrases that you can interchange, list out your services, match those services with whatever is relevant to that particular blog entry. Having a list of cities that you service as well gives you sort of a schedule, if you will, to again link up different areas that may be a target market for your business. You don't have to be exclusive about it, but maybe 1 month you want to target some cities in the south of you, and then you want to move on to the west, and then you can talk more about what's going on in those neighborhoods. And then again, you just want to make sure that you're locally relevant by naming those cities, because that's how people search today. So Elliot, I think you're going to get into now posting. Now that they've kind of gone through, hey, how do I come up with the content for the post? Now I've got to actually do the posting. And again, I know this is where a lot of people get tripped up on getting sort of consistent with it.
Yeah, thanks, Dean. So just to piggyback on what you were saying before I get into posting, the example that I like to give a lot is if I were to go and type in right now on my computer restaurants or food, just that term by itself, Google would find a list of restaurants, the best restaurants near me, and it would automatically basically look in the area that I am. And all search results kind of operate that way initially, and then it starts there with search, and that's why it's important to be unique and local. So are you, like what Dean said, are you answering the question the best way, and is it close to where this person is searching from? That's where it starts. It doesn't necessarily mean that every result is going to be local and this and that, but it's a huge factor of that. So I just want to kind of keep that in mind. Think about like searching for food around you. That's how search works in general now, just from a starting point. So that being said, diving into posting, there's 3 main components of posting, and what I'm going to talk about here is more the semantics of actually doing the posting, because anyone can go and do a blog post, but are you doing it the right way? There's a couple things that you can do that really kind of put the odds in your favor. And so number 1 is titles. Number 2, Dean kind of mentioned this, keywords and synonyms and those sorts of things. And number 3, tags and categories. Okay. So just to kind of dive into the first one here, how titles are important. Again, here's an example search result. So the user's typing in, what is the 3-day closing disclosure rule? And there's a very detailed, quote unquote, the best answer online for that question right here in the blog post. The thing about titles is that not only is it important for a ranking factor to have something very similar or something like that, but it also draws the eye to the link in search. So the title is actually the what is the 3-day rule. That's the title of the article. So that is the first text that the user is going to see when they type in their search. So that's why that's important. So one example of that I like to give is the title insurance one. Many of you might have a page that says, maybe the headline is title insurance, and it's all about title insurance, what it is, why it's important, so on and so forth. But how that's going to show up in search is just as title insurance. It's going to, this green circle here is going to be just title insurance. But if somebody is asking the question, what is title insurance? Or is title insurance important? Or is title insurance required? Do I need title insurance? Those kinds of questions might be a better way to phrase the title of that article. So hopefully that makes sense, because again, it's going to draw their eye. People want to find what they're, almost an exact match to what they're searching for. So that's why having something like this and trying to match the titles as best you can is important, because it draws the eye to that link. So moving on from that, keywords. So using the same example here with the 3-day, 3 different colors here, 3-day closing disclosure and rule. If you look at this, we've used some synonyms. You know, we spelled out the word 3. We also have the number 3 that the user searched for. Also pointing out the closing disclosure, right? Closing disclosure in the orange. In the document or in the article itself, it's referenced as a closing document. Again, you know, synonyms, using synonyms, not trying to just use closing disclosure, you know, 17 times in an article. Use synonyms, use different things, and Google knows to group those things together, and it will still have a benefit to your ranking. So this one, I get a lot of questions about this one, and you know, tags and categories. So what are they? And essentially, all you really need to know about tags and categories is they make your content more findable. And so if you think about social media and hashtagging and people using hashtags to, you know, tag different posts, all that does is it makes your content more findable. And I'm going to kind of go into that for a blog post, but those are like search terms. Those are like keywords and things like that. So whatever you use for tags and categories should be somewhat related to the keywords that you're actually trying to rank for. So whether it's, again, using that same example, title insurance or 3-day closing disclosure or those sorts of terms. But to give you an example of why that's important for a blog post is basically, if you go to the next screen here, Dean. There you go. Basically, a blog post without any tags and categories gives you a single page. Okay, so you post an article, fantastic, and again, this is where people get confused with this. Maybe they don't use categories and tags. They just post the blog post. That gives you one opportunity to be found because it's a single page. But say you were to use 3 categories and 3 tags. That actually gives you 7 or more opportunities to be found, because what it does is it gives you the blog post page, and then it gives you another page for that category on your blog, and then same thing with the other categories, and same thing with the tags. So you actually have a minimum of about 7 pages, 7 opportunities to be found for those search terms. And I've seen that before where a title agent or an attorney starts ranking, but it's the tag page. You know, it's a tag page for a specific term that had to do with some weird situation that went on with, you know, a particular closing or whatever, something that they blogged about. And so I've seen that before, where that is the very first part of their website that starts ranking high in search results because it's such a unique term. So just keep that in mind. Use categories, use tags. Those should be the same thing as the keywords that you're using and like the cities that you're trying to rank for, and the towns and areas, you know, regions and things like that that you're trying to rank for. So hopefully that makes sense. So Dean, if there's nothing to add to that, you can talk about promoting.
Yeah, before I got into that, another way to kind of look at the tags and categories that Elliot was talking about, for those of you that are familiar with the hashtagging in social media, similar concept, right? It's almost like the hashtag concept, but for your blog posts. So just wanted to make sure that those of you that are familiar with hashtagging, it's a very similar concept. So kind of moving on, we are going to jump into step 3, which is all about promoting. And of course, the mantra here is the easy way. So now that you've gone through, you know, finding your content, you've gone through, you know, posting it, you've got your tags, you've got your categories, that's really just half the battle. We can't emphasize this part enough. You must promote what you write. So just posting it on there and just leaving it there isn't going to give you the most benefit, and it's certainly not a best practice. We talk about Hootsuite a lot, and again, some of you may or may not be familiar with Hootsuite. In a nutshell, Hootsuite is a platform that allows you to connect your social media profiles, and you can even, you know, automate even how you blog. But you basically come here. It's a centralized engine. You can put what you want to promote in one place, and it will be distributed through all the profiles that you've connected with it. It's a very helpful tool, saves a ton of time, and it's definitely worth exploring if you haven't yet connected with it. So you want to link to Hootsuite, not only your social media, but your website. And this will, again, allow you to actually, much in the same way you would for social media posts, and getting those blasted out to you know, your Twitter, your Facebook, LinkedIn, etc. You can also connect now your website, and your blog posts not only can be posted automatically, but it also will get just sent out to social media in that same action. So really, really key to saving a ton of time and pumping up your promotion. You want to, again, we talk about the multi-channels here, right? You want to reuse your content. Don't look at this as a one and done. You want to repost content, multiple times. And we bring this, graphic back up again because, the content has multiple purposes. I talk multi-channel a lot with customers because, as everyone probably knows, consumers digest information differently. As we do. Some folks, tend to follow social media. Others don't. Others prefer email, and that's their form of consumption. Other people might like the handouts, the leave behinds. So there's print medium. So the point is that you can use your blog as sort of the centralized hub for content creation, and then from that, now you have a medium to connect with all these other platforms and channels. So again, you want to get as much mileage out of that content as possible, and this allows you to do that. And it's okay. It's okay to not only have it on your blog, but use multiple times throughout all these mediums and reused. So if we're going to recap here, and I know as I recap kind of these 3 points, I think after this, Elliot, you're jumping into some case studies and then and some results. So that'll be really interesting for everybody on the line. But to recap, we talked first about content, and so how to help you find and write that content. Something again you can do the minute you get off of this webinar. If you have an FAQ page already on your website, that's a great place to start. And each of those FAQ questions could basically be a separate page, a separate blog post entry. You want to add to it, like we talked about, so that you can optimize it with things like keywords. You want to localize for the cities that you service and add in what you do. We talked about synonyms and really beefing up to make it SEO optimized and findable. The next topic we touched on was all about publishing, right? Posting and tagging. Elliot got into a lot of the titles and categories and how to really frame that up. Again, it's way better to have titles that really relate to how that user is looking for that particular piece of information. So the closest you can get to that, and if some of your FAQs really aren't structured that way, an easy way to try to do this is just to call out, 3 or 4 of your closest partners. If you've got, a lot of brokerage relationships or a few that you can trust, and call them up and ask for honest feedback on how they search for information or how their customers search for information. Use some of those things, those categories that they give you as a starting point. So
what's another good one, Dean? Just sorry to interject here.
Yeah.
I've heard every conference that we go to, I get talking with agents and different things, and somebody always gives me like an interesting scenario that happened with maybe some weird closing that happened or some difficult thing that they had to go through that they've never seen before. Those make fantastic blog posts, like how you solved a certain problem, how you got the house from all these issues with where it couldn't close to how it happened, how you actually got it closed. And I hear about those, and I always tell them, like, that'd be a fantastic blog post, and it'd be unique. So just think about that as you kind of go through the day-to-day struggles of different scenarios that happen.
Yeah.
Sorry, go ahead.
No, all good. That was a great add-on. So appreciate you contributing that. And the last thing we talked about was promotion, right? And you absolutely want to promote your post. Don't just think you're done after you've posted it. You guys saw that web graphic we just talked about, and reuse that content. It's quite all right to reuse that over several mediums. You want to be as findable as possible. So in saying all this, we talked about several easy things to do to get started. But the famous Jim Rohn said, what is easy to do is also easy not to do. So we want to highly encourage everyone, take a step, take action in some form with some of the things that we talked about. Usually the hardest part is just to get started. So we would highly encourage you to do that in some form. Now, I think we're going to dive into a couple case studies, Elliot, if I'm correct, and you're going to go over some results.
Yeah, definitely. So the other part of this, we just thought it'd be fun to kind of show you some of the examples of, just a very few examples of title agents and real estate attorneys that have actually taken this process and done it. And they've done it, once a week, for anywhere from a couple months to 6 months, within that time frame. Everyone that we've ever kind of asked to, do this, and we've kind of looked at the case studies, they've all had positive results. It varies, going back to that original disclaimer, it varies on how long it takes to get any kind of results. That depends on the market. It depends on a whole bunch of different things that this can't control. But everyone has had positive results, at least thus far. So we thought this would be fun just to kind of unpack this and give you a couple of examples, and maybe something will resonate with you, just so you can actually see charts and things of how they were ranking. So the first example here is an agent, and he started off at, we'll call it Title Company A. And basically, this was a relatively new company. They had been around for a couple of years, but they weren't really ranking very well. They had a pretty old website. And they went from nowhere in Google to page 1. And with this one, it only took them about 2 months. And so this was just, basically 8 blog posts. And a lot of that, I can tell you, has to do with the company name, because it was very, let's just say that the company name was regional. So the name of the company, actually really helped to that, along with the blog post. Just the company name by itself didn't help, but with that, in addition to having all the blog posts be consistent and very, very informational, really, really good posts, he was able to do this over the course of a couple of months. So that was really cool. He ended up moving on and going to Company B and basically taking the same tactics and doing that in a different market and so on and so forth. This one, it took him a bit longer, right? So this was a well-established company that had been around for a very long time. And basically, with this one, he went from page 4 to page 1, but this time it took him about 6 months to get there. But again, doing the exact same thing, over a period of time, and he was able to do it. So just to kind of show you what this looks like for one of those companies, this was the first company. You can see here, January 2016. All of these lines are different search terms. So that's kind of how to think about this. We've obviously anonymized all this, so you can't see details of that. But all of these are different search terms. You can see the blogging kind of started here December, January, and then you can see kind of the ranking going up pretty quickly. Within a couple of months, you're already up. Basically, if you look at this chart, I didn't explain it, but 0 is where you want to be. That's like the top result in Google. And then down at the bottom where it says 40 and the 50 line is like page 5, 6 in search ranking. So this kind of shows the history of what that did for their ranking for different terms, just by doing some consistent blogging, answering those FAQ, answering those questions, those common questions that customers ask every day. That's what they were able to do with it. So it's pretty cool. So case study number 2. This was a brand new law firm and title company, and the thing that was unique about this particular case study is that they were in a very well-known large city that everyone on the call has heard about. Like you've heard about the city, you know what it is. And again, I'm not gonna mention it, but it was very keyword competitive, in other words, because there was a larger city. There's a lot more competition for keywords and things like that. But with this particular and then also the other thing was that because it was a new law firm and a new company, the website domain was brand new. So if you know anything about SEO, ranking a newer website, one of the ranking factors is the age of the domain. So if you have a domain that you've owned for 10 years, that is one of the ranking factors is the age of the domain. That theoretically will rank better, with everything else equal, than a brand new domain that's registered yesterday. So that was another factor in this. But again, same sort of thing, 1 blog post a week. And with that, they were able to climb basically about 1 page per month in the Google search rankings. And they, again, able to reach page 1 for their 3 target keywords. They were targeting 3 specific keywords within about 6 months. So pretty cool. And again, this took a little bit more time, but again, still not bad. After a few months, you really start seeing the results going up. Dean, if you go to the next slide here, it has the chart, the same kind of chart. So again, this one took a little bit longer, but you can see The very first term to rank, was pretty quick. And then after that, it took a little bit of time. It took a couple of months, 2-3 months. And then you can see the search terms kind of going up, and they were able to reach. This is an older chart from July, but they were able to reach the top results there as well. So pretty cool stuff. So, and that's been pretty consistent. Again, the timeline changes. The keywords, just depending on the keywords, some of them are a lot more difficult to get, just depending on how competitive they are and things like that. But it's pretty cool. You go through this several times and you see this, and it's pretty consistent by doing these things, doing the right things, making sure you have the tags and you have the right keywords and things like that. Anything to add there, Dean?
No, I think that covered it. I mean, what we're trying to illustrate with this is that, again, there are a lot of variables that impact results, right? And that's part of the disclaimer we made up front, and it holds true with what you do. Again, what your market consists of, and the type of competition, in that space. So we just wanted to give a couple of examples of that, where in one instance they got results within a couple months, and the other two it took 6 months. So it definitely can range with that. So yeah, so as we kind of close out the case studies here, we hope that again, we're going to go over a couple bonus pieces here in just a second, but many of you in the audience, you're doing this now yourself, or you're wanting to, and so and which is awesome. I mean, that is exactly what we hope to hear, is that you're able to take some action with what you've learned today. Obviously there's some challenges with DIY, and for many folks it's just time. They don't have it, so that becomes a big obstacle to really implement what we're talking about. We went over some light technical things, so some technical experience you might find is necessary, depending on what kind of content management system your website is running on. Knowing the back end a little bit, so that you can properly tag and create those categories that we mentioned. Again, that goes back to having a little bit of SEO know-how and just watching it. So the actual tracking component is really important too, almost equally so. Once you put something out there, you want to see if it's working. You want to tie it into some analytics and some reports, so that you can monitor, and if you've got to pivot or change how you're doing a certain way of posting or a certain topic, you want to know that, and so staying on top of this is really important. So don't be surprised if you run into some of these challenges, but we highly encourage, if this is you, if you're a DIY person, by all means jump in and take what you've learned today and put it into practice. If that is not you, and you're looking for an easier way, right? We do have the easy button that we're going to talk about, which we're really excited about. And we're going to take this opportunity in this webinar to announce our done-for-you blogging service. So we're really excited about this. And again, this is for folks that know they don't have the time to be consistent with blogging. They want to stay focused on doing more closings, and maybe they have a very robust in-the-field marketing program. They just don't have a lot of time to dig into the minutia on the back end and to really stay consistent with this. If this is more your speed, then certainly pay attention here. So we're introducing this new service, and this is kind of what you're going to get. We're going to offer 4 blog posts per month. So you're going to get 2 video. They're also called blogs with a V, but two videos that are going to have text below them that will be the blog entry. As well as 2 images plus text below of that entry. We're going to target up to 5 keywords, and we're going to completely SEO optimize that post. Okay, so we're going to do a lot of the things we just talked about and taught you guys to do when you're doing it yourself. We're going to do that for you with this particular service. In addition to that, you're going to get quarterly calls from us. We're going to set up calls to track those results and produce analytic reports, so that you can monitor to see how things are performing. Some of the reports you actually saw when Elliot was talking about those 2 case studies, we sort of unpack those results so that you can watch out for certain keywords and how they're performing as the blogging continues. So as part of this, we have two bonuses, right? So the first bonus is after 3 months of doing the service, we're actually going to collaborate with you and create a press release that'll go out. We'll do one a year. It's going to be sent and distributed to over 250 media outlets. So this is kind of neat because this press release can also serve as a blog post, and you can leverage it in all the different ways we talked about before. So maybe you have a new service that you want to announce, or you've got a new office that you're opening up or you're expanding. Those are all, great things to talk about from a press release perspective. So we'll get with you on that and put that press release together for you and get that distributed and optimized. The second bonus is each of the blog posts. We talked about this in the webinar about using it on multiple channels. So part of what's included here is we're going to also connect those blog posts for you on Facebook. So you're going to get the benefit of them not only going on your website and your blog on your website, but also on Facebook. So you're going to get some social exposure to that as well. So really excited about that. That does a ton of heavy lifting for you. Typical pricing, if any of you have ever priced out having someone create content, let alone posting stuff on your behalf, and getting involved with social media and blog writing, it can certainly, the costs that add up. And so it's not unreasonable if you're asking someone to do this 4 times a month to expect somewhere between $2,000 and $3,000 a month when they're creating content, optimizing that content for your specific business, posting it, and then also leveraging social media to share it. For this webinar only, and you'll see the $16.99 a month there crossed out. When we're going to end up scaling this particular service down in the near future, and our retail pricing will be somewhere around $16.99 a month. For this particular webinar, we're going to launch our introductory pricing at just $1,000 a month, and we're able to do that because of a couple of reasons. Number one, if you're already a customer with us, you'll need to be on either our professional plan or higher to take advantage of this particular offer. If you're not, and you're just plugging in now, our services from a monthly perspective to minimally to get on this particular offer will range between $99 a month and $249 a month plus some setup costs, and we can happily go over that with you. It's on a case-by-case basis which plan fits your business the best. But that's going to include a website in our video library, but that is a prerequisite to getting onto our blogging service, and it's one of the reasons why we're able to offer it in a very cost-effective way. So if you want to take advantage of this, we are going to limit the space as to how many companies we service at this time for this particular offer to 10 companies. So it's going to be on a first-come, first-served basis. So if this is you and you're just looking for kind of the easy button, then I highly recommend us to connect and for you to take advantage of this offer. Again, to reach out to us to let us know that you're interested, just contact us at hello@titletap.com, and you can just put in the subject line blog offer. That'll let us know that you're interested in the blog offer that we're talking about here. We just need to hear from you by on or before October 12th. The services are actually going to launch the first week of November. So we want to get everybody onboarded and scheduled in time to talk and get you configured ahead of that. So on or before October 12th to reach out to us to take advantage of that. Elliot, anything else you want to add?
No, that's it, Dean. I mean, if there's any questions, I didn't see many come in yet. But if there are any questions now, I would be happy to have several minutes. Try to let everyone out a little bit early as well. Oh, I see a question here. Yeah, Sue, yes, you have the email correct.
Yes, hello@titletap.com.
Yep.
Yeah, we got another one here too. Beyond FAQs, what other places can we get content? So there's a service that we actually talk about in one of our other webinars called Painlessly. It's paper.li. And what's really cool about that service, it might help a lot of folks on the line, is if you currently look at several mediums for your content. I don't know how many of you read the news from multiple channels or one or two channels, but usually it's, you got some online medium that you're looking at for that. Paperly allows you to actually put that URL on its system, and you can add 2 or 3 sources or 4 sources. And what's really neat about it is it'll pull in key articles from that particular source and allow you to publish that as kind of your own newspaper. So you can use that to do 2 things. One, to just single source all your sources of content in one place, or publish that as a marketing tool for your customers. And what's neat is that, again, that allows you, when you're asking about other means of content, you don't have to sit there and come up with it on your own. You can actually take those articles, write your own angle, a 1-paragraph angle on it, and then republish that as your blog post, and just point to that particular article to get the full read. So that's just another example of how you can leverage a tool like Paperly to add to your FAQ list of content. All right. Let's see if there's got any more. I'm not sure if you guys see anything. If you guys have any questions and you want to reach out to us, again, hello@titletap.com is the email. Our website is just titletap.com. Feel free to reach out if you've got ideas, if you want to mind share, if you got questions. Elliot and I are very passionate about education and teaching. Hopefully everyone found this webinar productive. I think, we got one more. So, let's see here. So hello@titletap.com should be the email. We'll reach out to you, Sue, on that. All right, guys. Well, we'll let everybody go. I hope you have a wonderful week, a good weekend, and again, to your success. Hope you guys found this productive. We'll talk soon. Thank you.